WNTN 1550 AM Boston. This is your hostess, Viviana Dragani. Welcome back to my show, Italieco. Today, my guest is Daniel Angelus, an award-winning music artist, English-born singer and songwriter who crafts and creates dream pop and indie pop music. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Hello.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Daniel, everything in your music is fueled by your experiences, right? So, what are your sources of inspiration for creating music?
Um, yeah, I think so. I started writing music when I was in my childhood, and I was going through like a lot of difficulty understanding the world around me and processing my emotions, and a lot of cruel things had happened to me. So also trying to make sense of that, and so I started to write poems which had all these
Mm.
feelings and this angst in it. And then I went and bought a small keyboard, a cheap keyboard, and just started playing keyboard at home and teaching myself more advanced kind of basically piano playing. And then I started to put together my poems with my keyboard and singing. And my singing wasn't very good; it was really bad. But but I got a bit better at that, just a little bit. But I think that's the biggest sort of influence, the biggest sort of part of all my songwriting has just been following that same pattern throughout my life, continuously writing about things that are personal or meaningful to me, and then putting them through in an artistic way. I think doing the keyboard work allowed me to craft some melodies and some music around what I was feeling. But I always found when I was playing the keyboard when I was younger, I only ever played how I felt. So that's kind of how I learned to write music, was just playing with feeling. I still can't read music at all. So everything that you hear is just me. And now I'm very lucky to have a team around me who are gifted musically, who can also help realize my vision with all their wonderful instruments. And I write all my songs from the ground up, usually using piano, and the same way, and then build and build and develop them. And I do it. It's the same method, and that's because music to me is like therapy. It's personal.
Mhm.
So I'm why change that format? So I only ever release something if I'm feeling it, and if I'm not feeling it, then I just won't release anything for a while. That's fine. It's got to be kind of, to me, there's got to be a point to it for me, and then however the world interprets it, that's personal to you. So
Got you. Thank you. So, tell us about your journey in the music industry. What have you learned?
um oh, I've learnt a lot, to be honest. I think getting into it, I thought it was just all about being famous and cool, so I looked the part more than actually sing the part. um, and I was kind of obsessed with how other artists before me had presented themselves and just done it with so much grace and sincerity, and they were really owned what they did on the stage. I got that bit right early on. What I didn't get was the patience and the crafting of the songs, and then working on how to promote them and talk to the media. There's so many skills that artists need beyond just singing a song. Sometimes
Right.
just singing a song is perfect if you can do that, and then maybe other people can promote that for you. But for me, one of the hardest learning curves was, since being asked to do my first ever show many years ago, about 15 years ago, um, was actually realizing that I have to put a lot of work into the music, the performance, the promotion, just the overall package. And that was one of the biggest learning curves for me. And it's something that I put a lot of work in over the past sort of 2 to 3 years as well, more than ever before. And it's quite exciting. And sometimes you make mistakes or you don't get it right, but it's what you learn from that, and you can take it into the next thing you do. So it's quite valuable making mistakes in the industry, because you don't have to be afraid of that. You can use that to develop those skills in other areas other than singing in the studio or going on stage or writing. So
Absolutely.
I think that's what I've learned the most from my journey.
Right. And any artists that inspired you or that you love?
Oh yeah, there's quite a few. Okay, so artists that inspired me.
It's a difficult question.
Yeah, it's there's so many really. There are so many artists, but I think artists that I love is easier to answer. I'm not really. I'm more inspired by my own experiences than I am other artists, but I do really really enjoy listening to a band called Las Vegas, who are from
Mm.
Scotland. They write such emotive music. There's a band called The War on Drugs, who are marvelous. Their songs are incredible. um, and that I'm really into them right now. I'm listening to them quite a lot. But I think over the years, like influences, it would be rude not to mention David Bowie, um, and uh, because what I liked about David Bowie was his ability to shapeshift. He could be whatever he wanted to be. He could create a character and become it and perform in it. And that's kind of what I've been doing sort of for the past 8 years, is I've been sort of shape shifting from one personality to another and letting the music flow with that. And it's actually really liberating being in character, whoever you want to be, and having a fun time with it. So the artistic license there is, it's unstoppable. You can just go do whatever you like, and it's so much fun. Um, so I think that's probably the biggest influence on how I write my records or my songs, is probably Bowie's approach to each record he did. Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel. And in your opinion, what are the biggest challenges in the music industry?
Um, well, the pandemic that just happened really, really hurt the music industry. One of, I think one of the biggest, most exciting parts of being an artist is taking your music to a live stage and performing for an audience. And not being able to do that during the pandemic was really hard, and really difficult, and we had to find new creative ways of performing live for our audiences. So a lot of us did YouTube videos, like live shows on YouTube or live streams. And in a way, throughout the pandemic, I sat and watched a lot of my peers in the industry, who are fantastic and incredibly skilled artists, doing as many live streams as possible, trying to connect with their audience and keep that going. But it also felt like a bit of suffering, really. Like we were just hoping that we could get, be in front of our audiences again, because they're sort of our people, and we write for them as much as we write for ourselves, I guess. And they live partially through our music, and that is quite a powerful connection to have with other humans through art. So um, that's been really hard recently. Um, I think one of the biggest challenges with music is probably getting it out there. Getting people to hear your sound and see whether they can connect with it or not. And if they can't, that's not a problem at all. That's absolutely fine. And if they can, that's really exciting. It's so exciting. So I think one of the biggest challenges is trying so hard to catch as many people's attention. In a digital world, that's really difficult because there's so many people who are like, "Hey, check out my creation." So finding ways of doing that
Yeah.
can be a big challenge.
And speaking of promotion, do you have a social media presence?
I am out there, yeah. I'm on Twitter and Instagram, and Facebook, and my name on there is Dream Pop Daniel. Dream Pop Daniel.
Mhm.
Um, and I love to see people's responses to things I create and put out there. So feel free to follow me and say hello. I'm quite shy though, to be honest. I'm not very talkative at all on social media. I'm very I do keep very much to myself and just do the music, but I love it when people get in touch with me and tell me if they like a song. It does make my day. It means so much to me. It really does. So feel free to say hi.
Absolutely. And could you please share your thoughts on your latest single, More Than You Love Me?
Of course, yes. So during the pandemic, I found that I wasn't able to work with my usual team, and I wasn't able to do things the way I used to. I wasn't able to go to my studio in the city where I live and work with my team. We were not able to do that here in England due to lockdown measures. And then they lifted the lockdown measures briefly, and we thought, oh, let's get to work and do some singles. And then they put the lockdown restrictions back in place. And so we were like, okay, we need to work out a way to create this music. So I put together a team online of very talented individuals from Florence, Italy,
Oh.
and here in England. Shout out to Florence. um, and and um, and I just started working with new individuals, putting a team together, saying, look, these are my ideas, sending my demos over, and it was like we created this wonderful family that was all online. So the new single More Than You Love Me was purely created in sessions between me and my fellow music friends online, between Florence, Italy, and the UK and America. And we would get together, share ideas, do some recording sessions, like virtual recording sessions together. And it worked so much. We went on to record a lot of music that's coming. But More Than You Love Me is the first single from these sessions that I've put out. The song is about, well, frankly, it's about sort of accepting and understanding that someone does not love you, and then realizing in hindsight maybe you just didn't love them quite as much as neither, and being very vulnerable in that position, in that place, being okay with being vulnerable is something that I think a lot of people find quite hard to do in life. We put up a lot of shields, a lot of barriers to protect ourselves, and a lot of us find it really hard to show ourselves to anybody. And I think in this song, I wanted to explore the concept of being vulnerable and expressing that openly, but also having fun with it, making a track, a song that I would be so proud of and excited to hear on the radio. Um, we kind of have a nickname for my music in the studio, and it's called deceptive pop. And that
Mm.
means it's catchy, but it's also
Mhm.
deceptive because we like to keep the lyrics raw and real and genuine. So More Than You Love Me, I think, really expresses that really well, and it sets in motion what's to come. So if you like More Than You Love Me, it's a whole new direction to anything I've done before, a whole new sound. There's lots more to come, and I'm very proud of this single. I was so excited when we finished it. I could not wait to release it, and I had to wait 6 months to get it out, to make sure everything was ready for release. And I was just dying for people to hear it, and I've been overwhelmed by the response to it. I'm blown away, and I'm really humbled and grateful. It's just, yeah, it's been brilliant. So yeah, that's a bit about that. I'm terrible at this, by the way.
Terrific, terrific. I absolutely appreciate that you can, show these kind of thoughts and feelings with our audience today, because it's especially difficult for men, I believe, to show, their vulnerability. So I really appreciate the lyrics. Thank you so much. So now stay tuned, guys, because we are going to play With or Without You and More Than You Love Me. Thank you so much, Daniel Angelus, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.